Call to order our regular town commission meeting of May the 14th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fender,
Here.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yeah.
Okay, first up is some proclamations and presentation. The first one is a ceremonial swearing in of Police Officer Jose Rodriguez. The Chief, please administer the oath of office.
Thank you, Commissioners. Jose Rodriguez is the newest officer to join the Sewall Point Police Department. Officer Rodriguez was born in Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, and when he was young, his parents emigrated to the United States, and in 2018, he became a naturalized U.S. citizen. He attended and graduated from Pahokee High School, where he was a member of the JROTC, and this was the beginning of Officer Rodriguez's call to service. He served in the Florida National Guard from 2021 to 2024, and there his job tasks included assisting in reconnaissance operations and defending the country from threats, foreign and domestic. He received an honorable discharge. From 22 to 23, he attended the police academy at Indian River State College, graduated, and passed the state law enforcement exam. As you know, we conduct background investigations. We contact friends, references, neighbors, even neighbors that they didn't ask us to contact. And his references describe Mr. Rodriguez as having high morals and ethical standards, that he always helps others without ever expecting anything in return. And he has a great mindset, personality, and passion that would be a great asset to any law enforcement agency. He also has a neighbor who is a law enforcement officer and said that he'd be very pleased to work with Officer Rodriguez. Officer Rodriguez is here today with his family and to celebrate the beginning of his law enforcement career. It's an exciting day for his wife, children, and parents. And as a police department, we're equally as excited to have Officer Rodriguez as a member of our law enforcement team. The town of Sewall Point and the Sewall Point Police Department is grateful to the Rodriguez family for supporting his career choice, and by extension, helping to protect the town of Sewall Point and allowing him to be here with us. If I could please have Officer Rodriguez and his father, Jose Sr., come forward so we could administer the oath of office and your badge fitting. Hold on to that, sir. Okay. You'd raise your right hand, please. I
Jose Rodriguez.
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will, during my continuance of office,
during my continuance in office,
to the best of my skill and ability,
to the best of my skill and ability,
faithfully discharge all duties
faithfully discharge all duties
which may be required of me,
which may be required of me,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all cases,
in all cases,
conform to the ordinances
conform to the ordinances
of the town of Sewall Point
of the town of Sewall Point
and its police
and
regulations.
its police regulations.
I will,
I will,
without partiality,
without partiality,
faithfully enforce the ordinances
faithfully enforce the ordinances
of the town of Sewall Point
of the town of Sewall Point
and all laws,
and all laws,
and will uphold both
and will uphold both
the Constitution of the State of Florida
the Constitution of the State of Florida
and the Constitution of the United States of America.
and the Constitution of the United States of America.
I,
I, Jose Rodriguez,
a citizen of the State of
a
Florida
citizen of the State of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and in the United States of America,
and being employed by
and being employed by
or an official of
or an official of
the town of Sewall Point
the town of Sewall Point
and the recipient of public funds
and the recipient of public funds,
as such employee or officer,
as such employee or officer,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Florida.
of the State of Florida.
Congratulations. All right, perfect. It won't fall off. Would you like to say a few words, Jose?
Thank you, Chief, for giving me this opportunity to work with you guys here in Sewell's Point. Thank you to my family for the support. It's been a rough few years, but they were always there for me. My parents, friend, thank you. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to be a member of this law enforcement, bit nervous agency. Thank you so much again.
Absolutely, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to town.
Awesome.
Welcome aboard. Next item is the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week proclamation, and I've asked Mr. Daniels to read the proclamation into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is a time-honored and vital part of any local government that exists throughout the world, and is the oldest profession among public servants, and whereas the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the governing bodies, the agencies of government, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be mindful of their neutrality, their impartiality, and rendering equal service to all, whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration through participation in educational programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, county, and international professional organization. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of our certified master municipal clerk, April C. Stonges. Now, therefore, I, John Tompeck, Mayor of the Town of Sewell's Point, do hereby recognize the week of May 5th through May 11th, 2024, as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend our appreciation to our Master Clerk for the vital services she performs and the exemplary dedication to the community that she represents, dated this 14th day of May, 2024.
Thank you very much. April, do you have a few words that you'd like to add?
Well, I just want to thank the commission and the town manager. It's such an honor. Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, great.
Thank you, April.
And next item is National Police Week proclamation. Would the town clerk please read the proclamation into the record?
Whereas Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Whereas the men and women of the law enforcement agency of the town of Sewell's Point play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the town of Sewell's Point and unceasingly provide a vital public service, ceasingly. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Now therefore, I, John Tompeck, Mayor of the town of Sewell's Point, call upon all citizens of the town of Sewell's Point and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024, as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers past and present who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established them for themselves an inviolable, enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of the town of Sewell's Point to observe Wednesday, May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or who have become disabled in the performance of duty. Let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Dated this 14th day of May, 2024.
Thank you very much. Chief, do you have a few words you'd like to add?
Lieutenant, I I just want to say thank you to the town commission and for any citizens who may not be here, who aren't listening, that, we're tremendously grateful here in the town of Sewell's Point to have such a supportive community, not just during Police Week, but, throughout the entire year. And we're very grateful for that. And I do hope that we see all of you at our ceremony here tomorrow that we'll be hosting for Martin County Law Enforcement.
Good evening. So I'd like to thank the mayor, commissioners, town manager, this whole community really as a whole. We, like the chief said, we do have just such a big support system here in the community. And having this proclamation here tonight sure is nice, and we do truly appreciate that. This week is kind of a somber week. It's nice to be recognized for what we do, but it's also a time to reflect on those who have lost their lives in the line of duty as well. So we do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, being a former chief of police, one of the things that you always dread is the day you get a phone call that one of your officers has died in the line of duty. And we've been very fortunate here in our community not to have to deal with that. But it is a reality that's faced so many police chiefs, not only in the state of Florida, but throughout the country. And, as the chief does, she gets to know her force, the people. We get to know them as well. And I never want to say goodbye to one of these guys under those set of circumstances, guys and girls. So thank you for recognizing the officers that have passed and given their eternal sacrifice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us down to item 3. Any public comments? Seeing none. Any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
I'd like to make an addition. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like to put it under discussion with the other item, which is River Road, South River Road. I'd like to put in the fill that we use for foundations for the new homes that are being built.
Okay, so that will be 12B.
Right.
All right, any other changes, additions? If not, a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as modified by Commissioner Burrow.
I'll second it.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck.
Yes. That brings us down to the item 6, the consent agenda. Any discussion or a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fender.
Yes.
Okay, we have no public hearings for ordinances, first or second reading. We do have a resolution number 970, celebrating Arbor Day and 32nd anniversary as a Tree City. Would the town clerk please read the title into the record?
A resolution celebrating Arbor Day in the town of Sewell's Point and recognizing the 32nd anniversary as a Tree City USA community.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Any discussion from the commission?
It's like a great thing.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 970?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fender,
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to item number 10, old business. Confirmation of ballot language recommended by the Charter Review Committee. Town Commission eligibility. Mr. Daniels.
Yes, we actually approved this measure at the last meeting, but there was some discussion at the end of this particular issue, and so I just wanted to clarify it, and our town attorney, our assistant town attorney actually did some research on it. Would you like to address that? And I think you have a copy of her memo or her email to me on it.
Yes, first of all, before I do that, I'd also like to clarify, because I misspoke last meeting in concerning the process, that the next step is to approve the ordinances to the charter amendments conditionally upon approval in the referenda. So we'll be bringing those at the next meeting for first read, and those will just embody the changes that are set out in the questions that you approved previously. Regarding the,
Excuse me, is that,
Yes.
will that just be one?
it'll be a separate ordinance for each item.
Okay. We never do it simple, do we? Go ahead.
I think I can try to put them all together.
No, I was just
but
curious
think
if
it'd be
we just
pretty
do it one
cumbersome.
ordinance, or it had to be 4 separate ones.
I think
guess
it's
it
better
because
to
it's different
do
sections of the.
4 separate ones in
Okay.
case for some reason there's an issue with one of them. Regarding the qualification period, the change that you approved or recommend is adding a 1-month residency requirement.
1 year.
1 year.
1 year, 1 year residency requirement. There was discussion about making that additional years. I was a little uneasy about that when I heard it. There can be equal protection problems with long residency requirements, and so indeed, I did some research and found a court decision that basically addresses exactly this, a charter amendment where they tried to impose a 2-year residency requirement. The court held that a 1-year residency requirement is reasonable for, I think, the reasons that it's being recommended is because it ensures that people who are running for office are familiar with the issues. But the court said that in that particular case, there was no evidence that it justified 2 years rather than 1 year. So unless we had some powerful evidence that there'd be something magical about more than 1 year, I don't recommend that we change the 1 year.
Commissioner Brill,
No, that was from before.
sorry, Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, thank you, Susan, for thinking about that and going ahead and doing the research to save us the time and energy. I'm good with the 1 year requirement. I actually had a question, and forgive me, but so the ordinance thing, because I was under the impression, and I think the town manager told me about this, but maybe I didn't fully absorb it. So, we're changing the charter. So with 4 ordinances, where are they going in the municipal code, and what do they say exactly? Like, see charter for change kind of thing, or what?
So the ordinance will be the instrument that lays it out for your consideration at the public meetings. The ordinance that you consider will be making amendments to the charter.
Okay.
It'll cite to the language of the charter that's being changed
Okay.
and show the deletions and additions, just as we do with ordinance amendments.
Okay.
So it's an ordinance, but it amends the charter.
Okay. So like, is that able to be found in Muni code? Like when okay. So anytime anything's been changed in a charter, you can find that
So-
ordinance that we're gonna, some ordinance?
So if the changes are approved
Right.
and become effective, then those changes will be made in the charter by Muni code, reflecting what was approved in
Okay.
the ordinance.
Okay, I'll ask, I'm getting bogged down in silly details. I'll ask you about it later, but sounds good.
Okay, we've already approved this, right?
Yes,
there's
so we
nothing
don't
else
need to
that-
take any action.
Okay, any other questions or discussion items on this one? All right, very good. We'll move on to item 11, new business, 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Daniels.
Yes, every budget cycle, we usually start out with the capital improvement plans. I think each of you have the enlarged reading version of them on your desk, and there's a snapshot of the overall, it's a spreadsheet, the overall plan itself. A lot of these projects, the commission has been aware of and used to, primarily our roadway resiliency projects. Phase 1 has been completed. We're getting ready to bid out Phase 3. There's been some minor tweaks that had to go into the design, and that's being completed, and we're hoping that the middle of next month will be out to bid, which gives us another idea of how much those costs actually are. All of the CIP budget, we project that, and primarily the projects that involve the town engineer, we look at the cost of other projects similar in size and look at what our last bidding cycle went through. So, Joe's here if there's any questions on any of the particular resiliency projects, he can answer those for you. We do have South River Road that's on the list, as we've had for the last at least 2 years that I know of since I've been here. And we know recently there's been some issues coming up with the water drainage, and so I'd like to kind of, if you all don't mind, I'd like to kind of look at the South River Road, because that might answer some of the questions that we might have later, not to take away any of your points on the 160 South River Road, but there are some concerns in that area of Marguerite and River Road with the water naturally comes from the west and goes down to the east, so it's a gravity situation. I think for the most part we've fixed the problem of the debris and other items that are coming through. At least the silt fence that's in the property west of River Road seems to be holding back all of that debris, but we still have the rainwater. Now, we're never going to solve rainwater completely, but there, Joe has come up with some ideas on that particular function. Joe, do you want to come up and address River Road? And this is kind of a stopgap measure. We're still trying to get grant work or grants that would cover the cost, which I believe is $2.5 million for the River Road project itself. Joe, I'll let you go ahead and take the lead on this one.
Okay, so I know a couple years ago when we started speaking about this project, River Road, at that time I was trying to, I came up with a plan that, as we do in most cases, we look at a treatment train because we have to consider stormwater treatment. At the same time, we consider flooding. We consider flooding at the location of River Road, but also what could happen downstream of that as it goes down into the Phase 1 area and so forth. So I took complaints I've been hearing over the years for the whole area, from Delano Lane all the way to just north of Margarita, which gets you into the area of Sewell's Meadows, okay? Not into the subdivision, but to that area. And so when you start thinking about that whole area, and basically that's almost about a 2,000-foot project, if not even a little longer than that, in inlets that you try to put in place to keep water from going down Delano, which ultimately goes down that road, gets into those properties, and then ultimately gets into some of the properties on South Sewell's Point Road. So anyways, I looked at that area of Delano, then I looked at the problems we were having. If you recall, we had Andrew was the gentleman's name that owned the property on the corner of Mandalay, so I looked at some of his concerns, and then I looked at, okay, well, we've been talking, we received a letter from the property owner at Margarita, at the intersection of Margarita, and so I kind of came up with a plan. It basically entailed putting in a stormwater exfiltration system, underground storage. It talked about where the water came from and then where it went to. So we tried to kind of intercept it, and obviously we want to store it underground. So that got up to about a $2.5 million project. It entailed, besides pipe work, inlets and so forth, but it also entailed sloping of the road so that when the water went over, filled up the road from the west, because that's what it's doing, filling up the road from the west, it wouldn't go over and then into the properties on the east side of the road. So that means we're basically re-sloping the road to one side, which we can do. So that gets to a lot of money. So anyways, that's the project that is in the CIP, okay? We've tried on 2 occasions to get some grant funding for that. A couple things, as you know, most of the grant projects we work on deal with resiliency, which typically deals with sea level rise. This one's going to be hard to justify for sea level rise, just simply because of where it's located. The second thing is we try to get flood control money. Unfortunately, it's not in the floodplain, so and we don't really have a lot of homes there that are flooding, and that would probably get us a benefit cost ratio for putting this much money into it. So those funding sources are going to be a little difficult to find. We may be able to get some DEP grants that are relative to water quality, but it's a stretch that we're going to find grants for this, okay? So when we heard the complaint, and I've heard from several of you, I thought about, well, let's maybe do this in pieces. Let's see where the majority of the complaints are currently. I went out there with Jack today. We looked at some of the things that people have been doing out there. So that tells me that maybe there's some options that I can put in place that are a little less expensive than what I was planning on before, okay? So I'm thinking I'm concentrating on the area from pretty much the, I won't say Mandalay, but basically maybe about 300 feet, not even that, maybe 150 feet north of Mandalay, all the way to maybe about 100 feet north of Margarita in that section. And so I'm looking at some pipe work, some exfiltration trench, which puts the water underground. I'm seeing berms already out there, so I'm going to leave those berms there. So that tells me that people are willing to let us do some sloping that can stay where it's at. Obviously, I need to get inlets in the right location so that the water gets to them, because what it's doing is it's flowing down that road pretty quickly, and when it does that, it sometimes will blow right by an inlet. So I have to do some things like valley gutters and so forth. Anyways, to make a long story short, probably told you more than you really want to know, but the bottom line is that I can get the water, capture it, and I'm probably under a couple $100,000, maybe $150,000 to do just that work. That'll probably provide relief. I won't say it solves the whole problem, because I still think we should change the slope of the road, but it will have a way for water to get to an area and stored, which I can keep it from moving the water all the way down Margarita and Mandalay, which obviously we won't increase the flow of water in those projects and on those properties. So that's what I'm proposing, and obviously I'm not sure we're going to find some grant funds for this, and it really is not a huge project considering the projects we already are doing, but it is something that I believe will help the problem. And a couple things I do believe we should wait on some of the items. We've actually talked with Jack about maybe with some of the private property owners that are fixing up their property, maybe they can do some slotted drains that keep the water from crossing River Road and into the adjacent properties. So those are things. I think it would be a project that we probably would get some help from the neighbors at the same time, improve the project, improve the drainage in that area. So that's what I'm proposing at this time.
Commissioner Kurzman.
Yeah, Joe, I wish I was there with you yesterday, because I've seen many times, I see where the problem is right now. I feel their town manager, and what happens is it starts where, when you originally did the plan for Margarita, Mandalay, that mountain didn't exist. That lot was as flat as could be. It was actually the low point as you were going west along River Road between Mandalay and all the way through the Kiplinger property. That was actually the low point. That lot was flat. And what happened is we have a filtered problem. It was made into a mountain. And you're an engineer, you'll know what I'm talking about. The higher it goes, the faster the water comes down. The faster the water comes down, they'll go right over drains because of the speed, the force, and it creates damage. I've witnessed the people that are here, the Madden family, watch the water slam into their front door, just about as going. And if this rain continued any longer, it would have been in their house. I also saw the water, what's happening because of the way it's pitched. the property, the lower point now would be going to the north side of the property, and it comes directly down. All that we've done is a waste because the water's not being captured, it's flying down, and there has to be something where the water has to be pitched over, almost like, you want to say like speed bumps as you're coming down to direct the water back toward the center to where they're going to retain this water. This is a property that I really feel deserves your attention before anything's signed off on. This really is a nightmare unless an engineer looks at it. It's very complex. We've created a monster. We've allowed this to happen because our ordinances have too many holes in them. And it allowed this person to do something that should never have been done. And what's happening, everybody that lives in that area is now suffering the consequence. Somebody got to beautify their home. It's going to be maybe the nicest home as you go up Margarita. But the problem is, it's created a nightmare for everybody that lives out there. It's created a point over the past year where residents are arguing with each other, homes are flooding, yards are flooding. This never happened. And it all starts there. The other home, you have the contemporary home, it's all concrete. The top of the house is concrete, the driveway's concrete, the sidewalk's concrete, underneath the house is concrete. Guess what happens? It was maybe less than a year ago, I went out there, I was called by one of the neighbors, I got out of the car, and this was a heavier rain. I got out, old pair of pants and sneakers, the water was running up my legs up to over my head. That's the force it came up with, because it was going through the woman's driveway who lived directly across the street. From there, it would fly into Dorian's backyard. From Dorian's backyard, it would flood his area out. It created a mess, and it just continues to make its way all the ways down. And this is something that was never planned out, because you have the water from there. Now you've created something worse than that. You have this other home. There was literally loads of fill dirt over a 2-week period. The tandems of dump trucks, they'd come, they'd sit in front of our homes as early as 6:30, 7 in the morning. They'd sit there if the truck's running. Then all of a sudden, 8 o'clock, the gates would open up. And for about 2 weeks, every day, starting at 8 in the morning till they sneak a few in after 5, they'd be dumping loads of dirt. It would be like watching one come, then the other one comes, leaves, another one comes, it leaves. This is something that should never have been allowed to happen. My guess is you probably have 250 or 300 tandems of dirt that got dumped in there. You've created a mountain. That is probably the high point of Sewell's Point right now, if you had to measure it. I mean, it's disgraceful. We got to figure out a way where this person's going to retain every ounce of the water. My suggestion would be you go in with a backhoe. We have the easement there. I think it's 15 feet if I'm correct. I wouldn't mind seeing the backhoe come in. You make it maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 feet deep. You put grates over, almost like you see in New York City where you see the subways. Let that go in there. That will take the water on one end. Then he's got to hold more water over there. Otherwise, the whole place is going to get flooded out. That's going to be the only solution I could think of right now. And like I say, the other thing is, he's got to find a way to, and once again, you got to go through this. This has to be done by an engineer. Jack's capable to a certain extent, but he's not an engineer in all fairness, and it's not fair to put this on Jack. And this is something really, it's really an engineer's job at this point. The average person can't do this. You have to understand the flow of water, the speed, and so on, how you probably have to go every 15 feet, every 12 feet to deflect the water to bring it to go south on the property, not allow it to go north anymore, and it's got to be higher. And then on the bottom, you got to make it deeper, because what's there, it's not enough, not even close to holding the water that's going to be necessary. And then the centerpiece, you have the rest of the water, which is now currently the driveway. So it's a double wallop. You have the driveway water coming, then you have the north side water coming. So you got two sides. And what's happening right now is the water comes, it doesn't go north, It goes across Margarita, it goes south. The drain that you currently have right over on the Barnes property, it never reaches the drain. It continues once again to the Madden property, and they get the water from both the driveway on the north side and the contemporary home, and they have become the new retention pond. And it goes on the side of their house, behind their house, and the front of the house. And it was only a matter of a short period of time. And, you know, I stood there and they saw me with my truck in front of their house, and I just sat there for a good half hour and I watched this happen. And, you know, my heart went into my stomach. I'm saying, please don't go any higher. If it did, it would have been in their front door. So this is something that needs immediate attention. And this is done, it's not because, the major thing that changed was that home with all the fill dirt. And this has been their nightmare. It's somebody else's beautification, and it's going to affect everybody going down that road. And like I say, something's got to be done, and I mean, bring in a backhoe ASAP, and just, it needs to do that to break it. Otherwise, there's no solution. And we also got them to have them move some of that fill dirt that they have right now that's pitching toward Knight Kiplinger's property, because it's like a gully, and it comes right down. It's got to be filled in, and it's got to be back pushed toward his property, and he's got to retain this. And also, it going directly down, Rolling Rapids, it's going to look like, because his driveway. There's got to be something, because his driveway is a direct incline directly into the Madden property. Once again, the speed that water is going to come down, because that hill is so high, and you have heavy rain, even with that berm that they have, the water's going to fly over the berm into their yard.
Commissioner Brill?
No, I'll wait
Or?
for when it comes up.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I was looking at I was a little bit confused when I first looked at this item. The reason I was confused is because I went back to November when Kim Delaney was here and we went through the capital projects. And some of those capital projects aren't listed here, and we've got some that are listed here that weren't in the listing back then. And I'm what that means in terms of the ones that were used to be on the list but are no longer contained here.
Well, the project that we went through with Dr. Delaney was to look at our strategic plan. So it looked at different timeframes. So you had the 5-year time frame, the 10-year time frame, and I believe 15 and 20 years is how she went out. So there are a lot of projects on the survey that was previously done with Dr. Delaney. I wasn't here at the time, but there were all these, I think there were 60 some odd items that were on the list that were of some concern to some of the residents. So they kind of prioritized them back on the first juncture with Dr. Delaney. And then there was, you know, what we go through every year is updating the capital improvement project, which is a 5-year outlook. So we take those that are closer to being reality, for lack of a better term, I guess. Is there anything that you saw on her 5-year list that I'm missing?
Well, I was looking at most of the projects we're talking about here are the near-term projects, the 1 to 10 years. And there were a couple, and don't get me wrong, I think what we got here is fundamentally fine. We've just added a few that weren't necessarily on this before, and that's okay too. I just wanted to make sure that was your intention. If that's your intention and the rest of the commission has no problem with, I don't have a problem with it either.
Well, about the only thing different that I look at is the capital expenditures, whereas, really when we have to plan on replacing police cars, I don't like the fact of coming in and saying, okay, we need 5 police cars. I'd rather spread out that distance, so maybe you buy 1 a year, if you can do that. Obviously, you have to look at the condition and the shape and the expenses that you have with a particular car, particularly once they're off a warranty. But, so those are things I'm looking at that you didn't have in Dr. Delaney's, because we weren't really looking at capital items, but really capital improvement plans are all types of capital that I'm used to using. And then another one was just so you can do some planning with our computers. This, the computer retention, again, most of the warranties that we can get are 5-year warranties. So I think we really need to look at, replacing computers on a regular basis, not all at once. And that's what I'm trying to get us, so it's not as much of an impact on our budget when we do have to turn around and make a replacement.
No, I agree. I think it's important to have a vehicle replacement and a computer replacement. Vice Mayor Fender.
Yeah, I just want to quickly ask about process. I'm looking at the list. It looks like somebody's done some good homework, but these look like big numbers to me. So, I would like to see the business plan that supports them, how the funding happens to support a multi-million-dollar. Yeah, so I'm asking for somebody to walk us through maybe and show
Sure.
where it breaks
Well,
down.
a lot of the funding for the projects that aren't here yet are still being put together, but yes, as Joe has mentioned, most of all the resiliency projects, with the exception of Phase 4, because we're just now in the part of looking at that, and our new grant writer will be involved with getting some grants for us. And then the South River Road one, we've always had a problem. We've put in for probably 3 or 4 different grants, but we haven't been successful yet in basically obtaining those grants. So just the other aspect that we have to look at too, because, we, like with the septic to sewer plan and everything else, we have to look at our cash flows.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get into a situation where, we're spending money and it's taking us a while to get reimbursed on it, and we run into cash flow problems. So, those are some of the things that we'll be addressing as we go through the budget process.
Okay.
But really, Phase 3 right now is the one that's on the horizon of us starting. And that one, we have all of the grant funding. I know we've shown it on different times, but we can pull those figures out for you and make sure that you have them.
Well, you touched on it exactly right with the cash flow program. I mean, this is a nice chart. Big white area at the bottom would be a good place to, I'd just like to see where we're shortfalls, where we think we're covered on grant funding, how much is going to come from ad valorem, and how much we're shy, right?
Okay.
And also compared to maybe previous years as well, just to see how far out of,
Well, when you
how
see
much
the budget,
stretch we're making.
I'm sorry.
Just,
When you see the budget, you'll see the past years. This is just the CIP, but you'll see how we were, I think, with our computer system that we have came on board, I believe, 3 years ago. So you should see 3 years of numbers on how we progressed or regressed, depending on what that budget item is.
thanks.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes. Two things. First thing, a small little item. On the spreadsheet, you have South Sewell's Point Road Phase 1, Part 4. I know that's how we initially talked about it, but if you wanted to change that to South River Road on that sheet, I would be good with that, because I find the Phase 1, Part 4 to just get us even more
Confusing, yes.
confused. Yes, if that's okay.
Well, if I may, just to address that point, when we do have that project on
Associate,
the county's plan for, funding that we're going to need for Sewell's Point. So you get points for different things that we do and some of the projects that we have.
Okay.
And we actually have to go before a committee, one of which that I'm on,
Okay.
to go ahead and get their permission or their ranking of our projects on a countywide basis.
Okay, yeah.
And that's something that Joe and I work hard at to make sure that we get the
Right.
best
Well,
ranking.
then maybe just
So
like in parentheses
Right.
for us at any meeting.
that's the way they call it, is.
Yeah, and then you put in
is-
parentheses South River Road.
And that predated me, so.
And then, approving, I actually wanted to let everyone know I need to head out in 2 minutes for my daughter's last performance in a choir. She's graduating, but I wanted to say and ask, approving right now the capital improvement plan is essentially, I know we're not doing the final approval, but this is
Correct,
the
that'll
first
be
time we're
next.
seeing it. But we're essentially saying, yeah, these projects are important, and what we would like to do, assuming the budget grants fundings all work out in the favor you're presenting. But obviously, if they don't, we can adjust our budget as needed. Is that a correct synopsis?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's flexible, and we're taking our best estimate at this point in
Okay.
time, on the expenditures. As we know, it went higher on Phase 3 because of inflation and other reasons. And now we see that they are, from the most part, they pretty much stabilized. So we're hoping, if anything, we might get some better numbers.
Well, that would be great. And that being said, I think that it looks good, and thank you.
That was well said, almost in the form of a motion, I thought.
Okay, I mean, I would make a motion to, how do you didn't give, to approve the preliminary capital improvement plan? Is that a good way to phrase
That
it?
would be great.
Okay.
yes.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Burrell?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Okay, next item is we're down to discussion already. 160 South River Road flooding.
Well,
Commissioner Brill.
I feel like the rug has been pulled out.
Sorry.
I'm saying it too.
Oh, no.
And I'm kind of upset about that.
Oh,
I
I didn't,
should have been forewarned that this was going to CIP.
I
And
mentioned that to you.
I had a conversation with Joe, and most of the conversation was about 160. Most of the conversation was about temporary fix. Okay? So that's all said and done, so I don't have to take care of that right now, so that's finished. Let's go to B.
Well, before we go to B, I
I
think,
apologize to you.
No, we got to get back to A, Vinnie. There's
Yeah,
still a lot
I
that
think-
hasn't been covered.
I
mean,
think,
we
yeah.
need we haven't come up with a true solution, and,
But that's what Joe just said.
no, but
He's going to
we,
look into it.
yeah, but we got to come out and see, once again, it's, and like I say, I know firsthand what's there, so there definitely has to be a deep swale dug with a backhoe. That's how bad this is over there.
I know, so,
Yes, and it's just, there's no place, I mean, it's got to be done almost like on an emergency basis, because the rainy season's here, and I don't think their house will make it a month with the force of the rain, what I've seen. And like I say, this wasn't even a major rain. That's what scares me. And I see
well, then, wait,
people up there peacefully for almost 30 years.
Joe, you want to come back up and address this?
yeah, I think what I'd like to maybe hear from you is, you talked about, something a little bit smaller in terms of cost, and will that, as a temporary fix, and, the $200,000 to $250,000, I think we have some options about how to pay for that. We obviously have no option for $2.7 million. So what I was thinking is, based on the discussion presentation you already gave us, can we get a little more detailed estimate about, what you plan on doing, so we can, discuss that and approve it? And I was going to suggest, a couple of years ago, we approved a capital millage rate increase, and to the best of my knowledge, and Mariah, jump up and holler if I say something that's completely off base here, I think we have about 900,000 or so in that. We've spent about 43,000 that's not reimbursable, and we have about 140,000 or thereabouts that is reimbursable. So we haven't spent very much of that $900,000. So I think there's an opportunity here I think this certainly is a project that would fit as a capital project, even though it's an emergency basis, but we may be able to fund it that way. Other than that, I don't know if we have any other options for funding the project.
I think there's one other, when we pay permit fees and stuff, you can only do you can only spend the money in so many different ways. You could spend it towards salaries, a certain percent could go to salaries in the office. Some could go actually to road projects, and that could be considered a road project if we have the money in that.
Certainly look at that. Commissioner Brill?
Thanks. So we talked about running something into the catch basin. There's a catch basin right near the property, and we talked about putting the exfiltration pipe and extend that and put a grate. Now, what's that going to cost us? That's what I asked you, and you said you would come back and let me know.
Right, and that number's less than $200,000. And so the only thing that Commissioner Kurzman probably stressed a little bit more, there's two components of stormwater that we need to consider here, okay? Storage, okay, and I will grant you that I'm putting storage only in exfiltration. I'm adjusting swale work in some areas that currently don't have. I'm not putting a big trench like he's talking about yet, okay, at this point. So I don't have that, because I'm not sure where to put that consistently that would keep the neighbors happy, okay? So we can look at that, but I'm just telling you, I'm putting storage underground, okay? And I'm getting as much as I can out there. The other thing that we probably like is the conveyance system, okay? Downstream of that corner of Margarita, we have a conveyance system already. I'm more looking at the water that's coming down that road and how I can intercept it. Now, I'm trying to intercept it not once, but twice, because I know it's going to happen. It's going to blow by one of those areas. That's exactly what Mr. Kirschman talked about. So I have inlets in I'll call them in series, okay? One set of inlets here, another set of inlets down here. And I keep doing that because I know we have a large amount of water coming in, and quite frankly, I can't slow it down. So I have to figure, well, it's going to blow by one of them. I'll try to capture it another time. So we have, actually, in my plan, I have actually 3 sets of inlets. And of course, placement of those inlets where the water is currently going is instrumental to this. Storing it in that exfiltration is what we're doing right now. Making sure we intercept it before it goes down the area where it was going down. I guess that's the gentleman's name that was just here, going down the side lot, his backyard. Dorian slightly. So I'm trying to intercept it there. Okay. There's not a lot of flow in my mind coming. I won't say flow. It slopes from about 150 feet north of Mandalay towards that area. That's from the south side, okay? So I think we can capture that water pretty well. It's the water that after that point gets towards Margarita that we have to make sure we capture. So that's why I'm trying to capture with more than one set of inlets, okay? That's why I'm trying to put it underground in storage. The other thing you need to understand, on the south side of that right-of-way, there's a water main. We start messing with the water main, it gets to be expensive, okay? And so I'm crossing that one time only, okay? I'm trying to capture the water as best I can without crossing that water main and impacting that, because that's a pretty good sized cost to fix that.
Can you put a conflict box in there or something like that?
Well, you can.
Do you need to put a conflict box?
Well, we may end up doing that. I won't say we won't. I haven't kind of, one way or the other, we're crossing it. So the point is I putting a line on that side of the road is probably not the best place for it, because I'm going to tear the whole line up. Putting it on the west side of the road, even though it's crossing the road, I'm going to put inlets on the other side of the road. I'm putting the main storage line on the west side of the road for that reason only. So I have, I have storage. Will I tell you that it's the total amount of storage we need? Because quite frankly, I was going to get more storage by sloping the pavement. I'm not doing that yet, okay? We can do that at a later date when we get some more money. And if this price comes down, we maybe have enough money to do sloping of the pavement. That will help me on some of the storage issues. Going up into the Kiplinger property, I had not planned on going up into there. We can talk to those folks about keeping their water away from this area, but we've been talking to all the other people too, and the bottom line is I don't know if we're going to be successful in stopping the water up in the Kiplinger site. I just don't know if we are or not, but I'm just trying to make sure the water that comes off their property, I direct it into storage areas. I direct it into areas where I'm going to capture it in these underground storage stuff, in storage areas.
You think most of the water's coming from the driveway across the street?
That's correct, and that was the one where I wanted to, I'm going to capture that water with two different inlets, and actually we're hoping we're going to get some cooperation from the property owner to put in. He hasn't finished that driveway. Put in a slotted drain, which we've done on 2 different locations in High Point. Put in to capture that water so it gets into this pipe system as it comes down the driveway. So we are looking at that, and we're hoping we're going to get some help from the landowner for that. So the folks here have already put berms up. We can look at boosting up those berms a little bit, but the fact of the matter is I'm really just trying to get the foundation set right now, and then I can add to it over time. But you know, I'm not sure where you're talking about putting this big trench. Underground storage is great, we just got to figure out, do we have the land, and, okay, how am I going to create that underground storage? I've done underground storage areas, we could do those, they get expensive.
Will there be enough underground storage? For the
There's gonna be
amount of water that I saw come down and
There's-
run down by the porch, you sure you can hold all of that?
Well, let me just remind everybody, because to tell you that every storm event I have enough storage for is not going to happen. And that doesn't happen now. What we do is we store water in different areas. We store it on private properties, we store it on public properties, we store it underground, we store it all over the place, okay? And quite frankly, when it fills up, because we have a hellacious rain, obviously what it does, it fills up, and then it all slowly comes down and we discharge it, okay? So it's a combination of discharging as well as storage, okay? So that's what I have to monitor. I haven't gone into that much detail on it yet because quite frankly, you know, I'm just kind of, you asked me to look at what the options, and we've done this option before. It works, but it'll be working between discharge and storage. And quite frankly, would I say that, you know, do I say we need more storage? Probably listening to Commissioner Kirschman, we could use more storage, but, you know, I don't think we've got the right of way. I'm putting as much storage in South Sewell's Point Road and all that I'm doing the same thing here. Only because I'm working within the right of way I have, okay? So, but again, I think storage is what we need, and quite frankly, it's conveyance. And basically, I have to have a backup system. When it blows by one set of inlets, is there another set of inlets that can back it up before it gets to their front door?
And how long will this take? I'm just curious.
Well, we can start designing it right away. I mean, there's some survey and topo. I'm certain that I want to kind of meet with some of the residents to make sure they know what we're doing. And obviously, but it's, you know, you're talking, I mean, this project can be put together a couple months, less than a couple months, and we can then go to town. We can decide if we're going to add it to one of the construction projects we're working with. I mean, you asked, Phase 3 is the next project under bid. You know, we may put it into that project and just kind of say, we want to do some improvements here. I mean, we can do that, and at least we have a bid done, we have a bid taken, we have the components put together, and then we move them up into that area for a period of time. I mean, one of the things, Bob was talking to you about is cash flow. One of the things we learned prior going through this capital improvement plan is, well, we got to figure out how much money we need, and where we're getting the money and when we're getting the money, because you have to spend it up front, and then you got to get reimbursed. We try to make these agreements with the grant agencies where they give us the money in 30 days. I can't tell you that's going to happen on all of them, but so it ended up, just so you know, Phase 3, the good news is we have enough money from the grant agencies because they increased our allocations, okay? We also reduced the amount of money that the project cost because we did the water and sewer project ahead of it, okay? Which, when we put it in the total bid, it was more expensive. So we dropped the price of the water and sewer part of the project. We got more allocation, and so those are the good things, right? It's all coming together. Now we may add a little bit more for this project, but and you're talking about I think the estimate here shows you close to, with the land and everything, was what, $10 million. So, we're talking about adding another couple $100,000 to it. That's not a significant amount.
Vice Mayor Fender?
So it sounds like I feel like you have sort of a high-level plan. I'm just curious what the status is on the other side. I recall a few months or years ago, we had some kind of a containment ordinance, and I heard you mention something about where the water's coming from. What is the status of the containment on the property that's delivering that water into the street?
It's not containing anything, to be honest.
Well, I'm just curious
Well,
what the real
I
situation
think that's
is.
a question to be answered by Jack and not you. Thank you. Jack, is there anything you can tell us about how the property is handling the requirement for on-site retention?
And really, what is our correct position on this? I mean,
The property under construction does have a retention area right at the front entranceway. They dug out a little area because that's not their permanent retention area, but that will be the area of their, one of their permanent retention areas. So they did dig that area out. They put in a silt barrier. They also put in a sand berm with rock. This past rain that did happen, the water went around the berm, the overflow water, but that berm did work. It held back all the debris. There was no sand in the road after that rain. So it served its purpose. He also put vegetation all along the front of the road there. He put some grass in. He put a bunch of trees or bushes to actually help hold back all that rain too. So he's willing to help out with this issue. It's just a matter of him moving along with the property. Once he gets his landscaping done, it'll definitely relieve a lot of that water that's coming down off of that property.
And he'll meet his on-site retention requirements.
He has to
Right.
before he gets his CO, correct.
Okay.
And he knows all about it.
Silt and debris, or is it both silt, debris, and water? I just don't remember what our
Well, the ordinance calls for water retention.
Water.
It doesn't say anything about debris, but water retention. And the retention areas that they have will only hold so much water. I mean, I think it's for a normal rainstorm. But when you have an abnormal rainstorm, well, of course, you're going to have overflow on any retention that you do.
So are
because
you implying that some of this is during the construction phase and it's going to get better later?
Oh, it's definitely going to get better, for sure. Yeah, and remember, this house was constructed and started before we had that on-site new ordinance that just went into effect a couple months ago. So he had already began construction without that requirement, but he willingly went ahead and did some of that on-site.
What do you reckon the time frame is of that betterment?
He's got, he's finally at a position now, they're starting to put drywall, or getting ready to put drywall up. So as soon as the drywall goes up, then it's just a matter of months after it gets completed, and they start working on the landscaping outside that. And they can even have the landscaping done before the house gets finished on the inside when they do the interiors.
I mean, you're thinking 3 months, 6 months, 1 year,
I think he's hoping to get in by the end of the summertime,
summertime?
the end of summertime, correct.
Commissioner Brill.
Honestly, I thought we had an ordinance that we did some years ago
Yeah.
about water retention on the property. So I think this ordinance has been, maybe this new ordinance is something, but there is an
I
old
think
ordinance.
we
It got
tightened it up.
revamped,
didn't
yeah, it got
we
tightened up.
tightened it up a little bit.
I just can't
yeah.
remember exactly the
Yeah.
parameters of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we increased it from what it was. We like
So
almost
you
tripled
changed
it,
the
if
old
I'm correct.
ordinance, but
Yeah,
the
we,
old ordinance still had water retention on there.
Yeah.
correct, yeah, it got tripled.
If I may, Mayor, my understanding is the previous ordinance dealt with after the house was built. And when I first started, we tightened that restriction up, that the retention of water once the house is CO'd. And then we've just recently changed it to cover the construction part of a project. So to make sure that they have a plan to retain their water during construction, because some of these homes take 3 and 4 years to build. So that's the newest ordinance that we had in place. And I just had a question too, just for Joe. Will this contract, do we need to bring forward a contract for your design work for this phase or part, whatever we're going to call it? But I want to make sure we can get that as soon as we can in front of the commission if we have to.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll need some contract. I don't think it's going to be a large one because of the size of the project, but the fact of the matter is we'll have a survey and we'll have some design work and so forth. So we'll bring that to you next time, I believe. And again, I assume you want us to work on this pretty quick, so I want to get this done, but I also want to get phase 3 under a bid, because I think, we really just need to get that one going. So anyways, but we can get it all going.
You might have to hire more people.
What's that?
So you might have to hire more people.
Oh, we do that often, but we get 2 and we lose 1. We get 1 and we lose 2. It's the way the world is right now, so.
Vice Mayor Bender?
So just last point on this, I appreciate the comments, Jack, and it sounded like from what I interpreted what you said, is that he's been fairly receptive, and he's been trying to make improvements going along. But I also heard that in this last rain, the water went around something he did. Is he open to doing some more minor emergency fixes to try to solve whatever problem was described there?
I think you said the water went around the berm. or-
That's what I heard.
Well, it was more water than the berm could handle, so
I
of
mean,
course
is there
it had to go
anything that can
somewhere.
be done to the berm to try to alleviate that for the
I
next?
spoke to the project manager, and he's supposed to start digging that berm back out again, actually, the retention area, because what happens, it did fill up with the sand that came down, but it served its purpose where the sand didn't go out onto the road. So I did speak to him a couple days after that event, and I'll go back tomorrow and verify whether he did dig that out or.
As long as they're receptive
They
to
are, very
helping the
much so.
problem. yeah.
Yep, yep. They want to be very cooperative with it, yep.
Great.
Hang out, Jack, you're not going away yet.
Commissioner Kirby?
No, the thing that I'm trying to explain is, I don't think everybody's connected to what I'm saying. In other words, if you go to the extreme north of his property, right up to Knight Kiplinger's property,
Yeah,
all the water is going directly there. It wasn't even like a berm, it's just going straight out. There's nothing to stop it. And it's going directly across the street. It is putting out probably almost as much water as the driveway was.
okay, that could also be coming from that, it's not the Kiplinger property either, it's
No,
that
it's not.
property in between.
It's right, it borders the Kiplinger
Right, because they have
property right
that
there.
house that's in between Kiplinger and 159. I don't know who the residents are there, but they've got that long drive. Is it Kiplinger?
That's Kiplinger Road, yeah, that's Knight's house also.
Okay, whose house? Okay, all right. But it comes down that driveway also right there too, correct?
Yes, but that driveway's not so much the problem, it's not Knight's driveway, it's before Knight's driveway, Cork's old property, which
Okay.
is, if you go just south of the driveway that you see for Kiplinger, where he comes out and
Right.
this other home, you'll go up maybe about 7-8 feet. That's where the water's coming from, between that, and you'll see right past the silt fence, in between there, and underneath the silt fence, the water is just running. Nothing was stopping, and the power that it was coming out at was ridiculous. I mean, it was just, something has to slow it down over there, because that's not even the driveway. I think that's the part that's being overlooked right now. It was clean water. It wasn't.
Correct, because it's the overflow of the retention area that they had done. I know where you're talking about.
Yeah, but I was watching, because you see it coming down the hill. Because when
Okay.
I had my truck parked, and I was standing there, and I literally, as a matter of fact, Marguerite probably saw me just parked there for probably about 7-8 minutes. I was just watching the water come straight down the hill on the north side of the property. And like I said, you can actually see, I mean, the water, you're seeing it flying down the hill. And it just,
Well, again, right now, there's no vegetation at all.
that's correct.
And, with the vegetation, once they get that down, it will slow it down, of course. But right now, it's just fill dirt.
And I know he'll be happy to plant trees.
Oh, he loves the trees. He wants to plant more trees, yeah.
That's what he told me as well. So if we can get him to plant a lot of trees over there.
I'm
that
sure he
would
will.
Be tremendous.
Yeah.
But if we could think of something like a temporary stop, that's my main, I'm more concerned about the next big rainstorm, so there's no big surprises to prevent property damage to neighboring properties. That's really what the number one concern.
I'll take a trip down there tomorrow and talk to them tomorrow. I don't have any problem with that.
And if you want, I could even meet you there. I could show you the videos, and I could show you.
Well, I don't doubt you at all, but like I said, I'll go there and meet with them and see what they're gonna do. Because still have to ask them about the retention. I have to make sure you clean that out, the retention area that had filled up. So I have to go there anyway for that, so, yeah.
All right.
Okay, can we, maybe we can summarize this a little bit, and I think where we're heading here, and please correct, I'm sure you correct me if I'm wrong, is I'd like to request the town manager to work with Joe to give us a detailed estimate of cost and also duration, and present it to us at the next meeting, and also for you to give us potential funding areas where we can get the funding for.
Okay,
Does that summarize what we're talking about?
good direction.
Okay. You don't need a motion on that, do you?
No.
Okay.
We should ask him if he wants the gumbo limbo tree we have, right?
Couple, we have a couple.
Yeah, but since we only have one meeting in June, let's make sure that, let's.
I'm gonna get this, we still-
Second meeting in May. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
May 28th.
Okay, great. All right, and the second item is also Mr. Burrill.
Okay,
Commissioner
well, we
Brill, I'm
kind of
sorry.
touched on it. Thank you, we kind of touched on it, about water retention and the fill that's being used as foundations. Up on North Sewell's Point Road, we have two new houses that are being built. They're very high, and the water will pour off their driveways directly onto North Sewell's Point Road. And so I want to make sure that they do some kind of retention, and I think maybe we should tweak that ordinance a little bit. I'm going to take a closer look at that ordinance, but I know that we had at one point on Fieldway Drive and North River Road, there's a home that was built there, and they had it sloped down to the property next door. Well, what the town made them do, or asked them to do, I don't know if they forced them or not, was to put a wall up, to level out the property so that they could put a large swale and retention area in there. Stop the issue with that. So maybe that's something we should consider, because otherwise you're gonna have one house up, the next house up, the next house up, and they're all gonna be pouring out to North Sewell's Point.
Okay, I guess, as a first step there, we can ask Jack. Commissioner Burrill is talking about the two houses that are being built up on North Sewell's Point Road,
Okay.
and he's worried about the water coming off of those houses because they are a little bit higher in elevation than some of the others because of fill and that kind of thing. I assume you've checked those, and we have a pretty good idea that their site retention is going to meet our ordinance requirements?
Absolutely. If you're talking about the one on the the northernmost,
Talking about all of them, I don't care
Okay.
which one it is. What I'm basically asking is that, okay, they're gonna have some retention area, but that's gonna fill up eventually,
yeah,
okay, with soil and this and that. And we don't get out there to inspect it. Okay, so we have no idea. Once they do it, they tell you they do it, you go inspect it, you say, okay, great, you did it.
right,
Then it fills. Then it fills up, excuse me.
okay.
So, how do we control that?
Well, you're never going to control that. First of all, those houses, we'll take the one at the northernmost. Right now, they have a whole bunch of fill on that property. They went ahead, they compacted that fill down, and they have to elevate the house because it's in a flood zone. So they had to bring in all that fill just to get it up to the FEMA's and our ordinance level 3 feet above what the flood level is. I think it's 5 or 6 plus our 3, so 9. So they have to be 9 feet above sea level there. So when they bring all that fill, on the one that the extreme north, they compacted it. They were getting ready to pour their pad, and then the engineer decided he's going to go with a different type of a construction. So they had to remove the fill to dig down below grade to put in some footings and they're going to be putting some pilings, right? Yeah, they changed the design. Well, my question was, okay, you're going to have it up on pilings now. What about all this fill dirt that was brought in and compacted, by the way? And even the owner was, because that's a waste of, funds. But they're going to put the fill dirt back and it's going to be underneath. But because I don't allow them to fill the rest of the lot, only the footprint of the house. So even that is really strict because they have no basically yard that's usable once the house is built, if you think about it, because as soon as high tide comes in, their backyard's going to fill up. No matter how many retention areas, it actually makes it worse. Because then when the high tide goes back out, they have that water with the mosquitoes. So it's almost one of those things where you kind of might want to rethink that because of the high sea level rise to allow them to put some more fill on those properties, especially near the back, so we don't get that high tide. And then because it eventually makes its way to the road, which it has on a couple of those areas. It's made it all the way to the road and floods the road. So if we were to allow them to start filling in some of that, and what happens is some of the neighbors get upset. They're like, hey, wait, this neighbor's putting on too much fill on his property. I'm going to get more water. Probably not, because if you look at the whole dynamics of that area, when the river rises and fills that lot, it's not going to be one more drop on yours because of the rest of the volume of the whole river you're speaking of.
But we're talking rainwater, we're not talking.
We're talking rainwater, even the rainwater, to hold back the rainwater. I'm making a berm all these properties where the rainwater is, so if they do fill in their retention areas, or it gets filled in because of natural cutting the grass and everything like that eventually, they still have these high berms. Every one of these new houses that we've got along that road have berms between the property.
And they still meet our height requirements?
Excuse me?
And they still meet our height requirements?
Yes, yes.
40, what is it, 45
So,
feet?
yeah, and they're not happy with it, but they're living with it, meaning if you walk alongside of one of the houses that's almost done, you're eye level with their finished floor. But yet, they're back at natural grade so that it's gonna hold the water right. They're not allowed to fill that in. Unless it's a footing, then they have to have at least a foot of fill over the footing. But once they get to the property line, I make them elevate the property line also, so that no water leaves their property onto the neighboring property. And that's been a practice since I've been here.
Well, I'm only concerned because of the flooding of North Sewell's Point Road.
Well, we do have a couple of those that it runs out onto the road. And those were here before me, but we don't allow that with the new construction. We have to, actually now, we've even tightened it up quite a bit. Now that we have CapTech involved in those, they're actually doing, a really good job at holding the water for the construction sites. And then now they've got a better design for after, once it's finished. It's even better than what it was. So it's tighter. Plus, they go out and do the inspection on those too. So it's not me.
Vice Mayor Fender.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Commissioner Brill if he spoke with Pam Bush about this at all. I think she has some data to provide. She's in Greece? Good. Well, when she comes back, she called me probably 2 months ago on this particular issue, and so she's very passionate about it. And I think she has some data, so you might touch base if you haven't already.
We did spend, a lot of time on the ordinance for the storm treatment areas and that kind of thing, you recall. And, I have no problem going back again, but Commissioner Brill, you might want to dig that bad boy out and take a look at it and see if there's anything you'd like to modify or have us take it, because like I said, we spent 3 or 4 meetings talking about that at least.
We always spend 3 or 4 meetings.
We do. We do.
Nothing changes.
All right, we're up to staff closing comments.
Yes, just briefly, I have another email that I received today. Actually, I received it yesterday and read it today from Jordana Whitner. She's the young lady that represented Florida City Gas, and basically she's been trying to get our project approved through Chesapeake Utilities, which now owns Florida City Gas. And according to the email, she's been unsuccessful, but she's still trying. So I'll be giving you occasional updates, but it's not as positive as it was back when FP&L owned them. So.
I always, be honest with you, I always thought that was a long shot anyway, because there's just not the load down here that they'd be interested. If we had some, some commercial or industrial, they'd be interested, but not just residential. So, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner comments? Vice Mayor Fender.
Yeah, I was just hoping Town Manager and Jack could give us a little update on 10 Oakwood.
Sure.
What transpired some people were asking me.
No problem. We had the magistrate's hearing in last Wednesday, I believe it was, and all along, we have been looking at the issue of the trees that were removed, and we've had a meeting out there, and we've had efforts to gain cooperation. They held out to, I guess 3 months ago roughly, on supplying us with a mitigation plan. There's been a lot of changes on their mitigation plan. The one that Jack has accepted involved, I think it was 460 some odd inches, and at the bottom line was they came up short 169 caliper inches, and they just didn't have, Mike Flaw is his design architect, and they just didn't have enough room on the property for it. So at their suggestion, they wanted to pay $22,000 into the tree fund. So we, as I mentioned at a previous meeting, we didn't have an avenue for me to mitigate what our fine schedule says, and that's 50 or 55,000. I can't remember the exact amount right now. But so they went out and got a legal counsel, and they represented them in front of the magistrate, and they changed their tune. Instead of, trying to resolve the issue, they decided that it was better that, we go back and find a violation, which we had because they couldn't plant 169 inches, but there's, again, the magistrate was having problems in making sure he has jurisdiction, and so we're back to square one. They did make an offer that was less money than what they had offered before, and so we're now getting ready to find them in violation and go through the whole code enforcement process. So it'll probably be 2 or 3 months down the road, and we'll be back at a hearing, and that will be, the jurisdiction problem be resolved.
I'm sorry, what was the jurisdiction problem? I don't.
Well, the magistrate usually meets on a violation, and since
Okay, I got you.
so and technically we had a violation, but we didn't, go through the normal violation steps because the owner was cooperating at the time. And would you like to?
We thought that the owner was going to stipulate to the violation so that we could have the magistrate impose the monetary payment. And then we found out that at the hearing that no, they were not going to stipulate to the violation, so the only thing to do is to go back and actually go through the notice of violation process.
There's probably a lesson to be learned there. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to ask about that?
Yeah, just, so I guess also the next phase of that is taking a look at the ordinance revolving around the permeability and paver bricks.
Yes, and Susan has been working on that ordinance as well, and one of the items that, we just have to be careful because we don't want to get it to a point where we're too restrictive and somebody says, okay, well, I'm going to put in my cement driveway. That's more important to me than having the house as large as it is, so they make the house smaller and put in have the same concrete driveway where we have the issues. So one of the things that we're looking at putting in there is similar to the Kiplinger property where, well, they don't own it anymore, but the part that they sold off, and they put in that block driveway with the grass growing in between. And so you have the permeability that we want with the water, and so you don't have the runoff. So that's one of the things that we're looking at putting into the, as a substitute for pavers, putting that type of a driveway system in that we would allow them credits for. So it's just, sometimes if you shut everything off, we're not getting the desired effect. So I think by offering them that option, and that'll come before you at the next meeting, I believe.
Commissioner Kurzman.
Yeah, I think we got to revisit, there's a couple of things. One, permeability. Any new home or any future driveways, sidewalks, it's very important to, it's got to be strictly permeable so we don't have to go through this again. We don't want any more situations like we had on Oakwood again. And we also don't want any more situations like we had over on 160 South River Road where we can't have all this filter coming in. I don't know why we don't, I can't believe there is no ordinance to prevent this from happening. And he shouldn't have been able to put any.
It's permeable, isn't it?
What's it?
Fill dirt is permeable, isn't it?
Yeah, but you shouldn't have somebody raise because you're still creating the hill, and you shouldn't be able to do that. You want to keep everything pretty much level, but it's a gentle flow, not a massive flow. And especially when you have a lot of homes or a lot of square feet of roof coming down, with the water coming off of it, it's coming down and it's pretty fierce because it's coming off the roof, then it's going down a hill, and especially if a heavy rain, it's something I feel we got to look into and maybe revisit that.
You want to require gutters?
It's not so much gutters. I think it has more to do with fill dirt. I think that's been the biggest.
Well, let's do this, once again, we're starting to get into the detailed design, which terrifies me when we're doing it. Why don't you take a look at the ordinance that we're talking about, and if you want us to review it again, or if you want to make some additions or changes to it, let's go ahead and do that.
I don't even know what the ordinance is right now with fill dirt.
Well, it's coming
Well,
before us on next meeting.
We'll give you a chance to dig it out.
Yeah.
I appreciate
You got
that.
time, no problem. Okay, Vice Mayor Fender, you have anything else?
No, that,
Okay.
from before.
All right, I had one thing, and I think we need to discuss it, or at least think about it for the next meeting. Maybe it brings up to speed on the grant writer and what we're doing or not doing.
Yes, we have an RFP out currently, and, that's due in on Monday. We might have to extend it a week. I'm working with Susan on that. For grant writer,
Oh, we lost our grant writer?
yes.
Oh, I didn't
I
know
did
that.
not know that.
So she didn't, what we're trying to do is capture the expense for grant writing within the grant itself. And, so apparently, our current grant writer didn't want to they would rather have a retainer function like we currently have. And so we've also lost the lobbying effort, but there's, that issue, but that she was being paid for both functions.
Was this us or her?
Her,
She backed out.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, are there any other, I think, I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed with her performance over the last year. I didn't feel like we were getting the updates that we needed to get up, and I thought there were some mistakes that were made, so I'm not unhappy that we're finding somebody else. Okay, any other comments from the commissioners? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to observe.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.